Julian Cross lived his life with precision. Time was his currency, control his religion. As the billionaire CEO of Crossed Ventures, a global tech conglomerate known for its ruthless innovation and zero-mistake culture, he wasn't used to errors. Especially not his own. So when his private jet was grounded due to unexpected weather, and he was forced to fly commercial for the first time in nearly a decade, it already felt like the universe was playing a prank. It was 9:02 a.m. at JFK International Airport. His meeting with high-profile Japanese investors was set for 10:30 sharp. The margin for error was non-existent. His Italian leather shoes tapped impatiently against the terminal floor as he reached the baggage claim. Eyes locked on a black suitcase with a red ribbon, identical to his. Without hesitation, he grabbed the bag and turned for the exit like a man walking through fire. "Wait," a voice shouted. Julian didn't pause. He had no time for distractions. "You, suit guy, that's my bag." The voice grew closer. He kept walking, gaze fixed forward, but then came the sound of squeaky sneakers pounding against linoleum, and a human-shaped blur launched toward him with chaotic energy. A young woman in an oversized dinosaur hoodie and a high, messy bun reached out, clutching the suitcase handle like it was her child. "This is my suitcase." Julian turned, face expressionless. "Miss, I assure you this is mine." "No, it's mine. You grabbed it off the carousel like you were robbing a bank." "I have a meeting in." He checked his Rolex, 43 minutes. "Let go." "You let go." He tugged. She tugged harder. Then it happened. The zipper surrendered to the universe and tore open with a dramatic ZRIPPPP. In an explosion of fabric, the contents of the suitcase spilled out across the airport floor in what could only be described as a lingerie Armageddon. Bright lace brass, avocado-printed underwear, a pair of socks with Nicolas Cage's face, and, of course, a glowing neon pink vibrator that skidded across the floor like a rogue rocket and stopped at the feet of an elderly woman sipping coffee. There was a moment of absolute silence. Then, laughter. A lot of it. Phones came out. Clicks and flashes. Teenagers whispered, "OMG, this is going viral," as the two stood frozen in mortified horror. "Don't touch my underwear," the girl shouted as Julian bent down to help. "That's private. You brought a vibrator in your carry-on," he muttered. "It wasn't supposed to be in there. It was in my checked bag." "You corporate banana." Julian glanced around. "There's glitter on my suit. There's shame in my lungs," she retorted, zipping the suitcase closed with theatrical fury. "You should check name tags before grabbing someone else's secrets. And you should pack fewer surprises." She stared daggers into his soul. Then, with as much dignity as someone could muster while carrying a suitcase full of chaos, she turned and walked away. Julian looked at the glitter on his hands, sighed deeply, and returned to the carousel. Moments later, he found his real suitcase, black, with subtle gray stripes and a monogrammed tag reading J. Cross, still making loops like nothing had happened. He grabbed it, walked away, and for a split second, smiled. Skye Monroe didn't cry easily, but as she sat outside a Manhattan coffee shop, re-watching the TikTok video of her airport humiliation for the 6th time, tears were a real possibility. She had just landed a temp gig to make rent. She wasn't famous. She wasn't glamorous. She was just a broke artist with anxiety, caffeine dependency, and a sketchbook full of feelings. Now, the internet knew her as #VibratorGirl. The top comment, iconic. "I want her confidence and her socks." She shoved her phone into her hoodie and groaned. This was her life now. Then came an email from a creative staffing agency. 1-week temporary contract. Crossed Ventures HQ. Art department assistant. Starts tomorrow. She blinked. Crossed Ventures. As in Julian Cross. As in Mr. Corporate Banana. She didn't want to go. She also didn't want to get evicted. So she went. The next morning, Skye stepped into Crossed Ventures like she was infiltrating enemy territory. Corporate glass walls. Espresso machines. People in suits that probably cost more than her rent. She was given a visitor badge and led to the 43rd floor. When she walked into the boardroom, she nearly fainted. There he was, Julian Cross, in the flesh. And as fate would have it, she was seated right beside him at a presentation for the Japanese investors. He turned to her, his eyes widened. "You've got to be kidding me," she hissed. "Say one word, and I'll redecorate your suit with paint thinner." Julian opened his mouth, then, before he could stop himself, said, "It's her, the suitcase girl." Every head turned. Julian froze. Skye's soul left her body. Mr. Kobayashi stared. Julian scrambled. "What I meant is, she's passionate about her belongings. Very passionate." Skye slammed her pen down and whispered, "When this is over, you're buying me a new life." Somehow, the meeting went well. Julian presented. Skye took notes. They avoided each other's eyes until the last 10 minutes. Then he passed her a note. "Are you okay?" She drew a cartoon of a middle finger and slid it back. Later, in the elevator, she confronted him. "You humiliated me. Again." I panicked. "You said, 'vibrator girl,' in front of investors. I said suitcase girl. It's the same thing now." He leaned against the elevator wall. "Look, you're talented. You kept up. That was impressive." Skye blinked. It wasn't an apology, but it was close. Over the next few days, she didn't just survive at Cross Ventures, she started to thrive. Her sketches caught the attention of the creative director. Her notes became suggestions. Her suggestions became ideas. One morning, she walked into Julian's office with a giant poster board that read, "Your brand is beige. Let's fix it." He stared at it, then at her. "You're hired. For real? Full time?" Skye blinked. "This is insane. You'll fit right in." They weren't friends. Not yet. But something had shifted. Julian started stopping by the creative floor more often. He brought her coffee. She brought him sarcasm. He offered funding for a new campaign. She called him a spreadsheet in a suit. One evening, she was painting in the office after hours. He walked in, tie loose, sleeves rolled up. "You're still here? So are you." They stood by the window, watching the lights of the city flicker like fireflies. He reached up, brushed a streak of blue paint from her cheek. She looked at him. He leaned closer, their faces inches apart. "Julian, Mr. Cross, urgent call from Tokyo." The spell broke. He stepped back. She turned away, but the air between them, crackling. That night, Skye lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She'd been humiliated, memed, misunderstood, and now she was almost kissed by a billionaire CEO. What was happening? Julian sat in his penthouse suite, staring out at the skyline. He'd made billions, closed deals across continents, but one girl with a sketchpad and a pink pen had shaken his world. And though he couldn't admit it aloud, not yet, Julian Cross, the master of control, was officially out of control. Julian Cross was falling for a woman who had once screamed, "You corporate banana," at him in front of 24 horrified airline passengers. If that wasn't irony, he didn't know what was. Ever since Skye Monroe stormed into his perfectly ordered life, things had gone sideways, but somehow, sideways felt better. She made the office louder, messier, more unpredictable. She painted her concepts in watercolor. She rolled her eyes during board meetings. She once stapled a sticky note on his monitor that said, "Stop being beige." And now, she was part of his company, his creative team, his world, and maybe, just maybe, his heart. But the moment Julian allowed himself to consider that possibility, the universe did what it always did to men who dared to hope. It sent Vivian Chase, Julian's ex-fiancée, the last woman who had nearly made him believe in love. She appeared without warning. He was in the middle of a product launch meeting when the doors to the Cross Ventures boardroom opened and a familiar voice rang out. Smooth as champagne on silk. "Apologies for interrupting. I believe I'm expected." Heads turned. Skye, seated near the window, froze. Vivian Chase walked in wearing 4-inch heels, a navy blue designer suit, and the kind of self-confidence that made people straighten their posture involuntarily. Julian stood up, stunned. "Vivian?" She smiled as if she hadn't ghosted him 3 years ago with a 2-line email. "Hello, Julian." The chief of HR stepped forward nervously. "Apologies, sir. The board brought her in under strategic consultancy, branding division. She's temporary." Julian's jaw tightened. "Perfect." Skye watched in silence as Vivian took a seat directly across from her. Their eyes met for a millisecond, just long enough to say everything without a single word. And just like that, the room became a chessboard. Later that day, Julian cornered Vivian in his office. "Why are you here?" She shrugged, crossing her legs as if it was still her space to own. "The board thinks your company's brand image has become a bit too colorful." "You mean Skye?" Vivian smiled. "She's bold, raw, artistic, but branding a billion-dollar firm is not a middle school art fair. She's effective. She's a liability." Julian folded his arms. "You left me, now you're back, with an opinion about the one person in this company who's actually helping us grow." Vivian leaned forward. "I'm not here to hurt you, Julian. I'm here to remind you who you are." He narrowed his eyes. "And who's that?" She stood. "Someone who once knew better than to fall for chaos." Skye didn't speak to Julian for the rest of the day. He showed up with coffee the next morning, her favorite, half oat milk. Double cinnamon. She took it without a word. "Still mad?" he asked. She sipped. "Should I be?" She showed up uninvited. "But the board hired her. She won't last." Skye glanced up. "She's beautiful. So are you." "That's not the point." He hesitated. "What is the point, Skye?" She finally looked at him. "The point is, she's from your past. And I'm trying really hard not to become collateral damage in whatever storm she brings with her." Julian didn't reply, because deep down, he wasn't sure he could protect her from it. Vivian wasted no time. By day 2, she'd rearranged the brand team's seating chart. By day 3, she'd hosted a clean design workshop that excluded Skye. By day 4, she'd rewritten Skye's campaign slogan. It was war. And Skye, she was ready. "Let's paint the damn boardroom," she told the creative team. Literally, she created a live mural in the executive hallway, dynamic, fluid, raw. It showed the company's journey through abstract visuals. Investors started stopping to take selfies with it. Even the interns called it epic. Vivian called it unprofessional. Skye called it real. Julian watched from the sidelines. Torn. He admired Skye's fire, but Vivian knew how to play the politics of corporate power. And the investors, they were old school. They liked clean lines, straight ties, not messy passion. Then came the leak. Friday morning, every business blog in New York posted the same headline. From viral lingerie girl to crossventures power move, who is Skye Monroe? Photos from the airport, screenshots from meetings, quotes from anonymous insiders. The article was half praise, half hit piece. It praised her vision, mocked her past, and dragged Julian's name through the mud as well. Skye read it in silence. Julian stormed into the boardroom. "Who leaked this?" No one answered. He turned to Vivian. "Was it you?" She tilted her head. "I don't need to attack your pet artist. She's doing a fine job of distracting you all by herself." Skye walked in. She held the magazine. "Let's make this easy," she said. "If I'm a problem, I'll resign." "No," Julian said instantly. "Yes," Vivian chimed in. The room fell quiet. Skye looked at Julian. "Do you want me here?" He stared at her, seeing not just the glitter, the chaos, the passion, but the woman who'd reminded him what it meant to feel again. "I don't want this company without you," he said. Then he turned to the board. "Effective immediately, Skye Monroe is promoted to co-creative director. Equal authority, equal voice." Vivian blinked. The board murmured. Skye gasped. "Are you insane?" "Probably," Julian replied, "but I'd rather risk insanity with you than perfection without you." That night, on the rooftop of Cross Ventures, under string lights and city noise, Skye found Julian leaning against the railing. You just made my life 100 times harder, she said. He looked at her. You're not afraid of hard things. No, just heartbreak. He took a step closer. So am I. Then why do this? He touched her wrist. Gentle. Because falling for you isn't a mistake. And I've lived my whole life avoiding mistakes. They kissed. This time, nothing stopped them. Not Tokyo. Not the past. Not even fear. Just lips. And breath. And hope. And above them, a single drone camera hovered quietly, streaming the kiss to the PR intern who'd been tracking company morale through hidden rooftop footage. But that's another story. Julian Cross had kissed Skye Monroe on the rooftop of Cross Ventures like the world wasn't watching. And for a few blissful moments, it hadn't been. But the thing about being a billionaire CEO, the world was always watching. Especially when you kissed your employee under fairy lights and an intern's drone caught it all on video. The clip was supposed to be internal only, team morale content, but the internet had other plans. The moment someone leaked the rooftop footage, complete with soft music, city skyline, and that kiss, everything exploded. Skye Monroe wasn't just the luggage girl anymore. She was Julian Cross's secret romance. #Skye and Julian trended within hours. Memes, reaction videos, think pieces. Some called it romantic, others cried favoritism, a few declared it corporate fairy tale meets HR violation. Julian read the headlines in silence. Skye stared at her phone like it was a bomb. Why does the internet care if I kiss someone? She muttered in Julian's office. Because I'm someone with a 10-figure valuation, he replied, tone dry. She groaned. This is why I date broke men. He smirked. So I still have a chance. She threw a pen at him. But the media storm was just the beginning. That afternoon, the Cross Ventures board called an emergency meeting. 12 gray-haired men and women with shareholder smiles and polished language. Vivian Chase sat at the head of the table. Julian walked in, jaw set. Skye wasn't invited. He wished she had been. Mr. Cross, said the board chair, your relationship with Ms. Monroe. My personal life is my concern. Vivian chimed in, not when it affects stock value. The public assumes she's receiving favoritism. She earned her title, perhaps, but now, every campaign she touches will be questioned. Julian folded his arms. You're not firing her. Vivian smiled. Of course not. We'd never suggest that. The chair cleared his throat. We simply believe a public statement is needed. Something to clarify boundaries. And if I refuse? Vivian's eyes sparkled. Then the board will discuss whether your leadership remains in the company's best interest. That was the moment. The threat. Skye had risked her reputation. Now Julian would risk everything else. Skye paced in the empty creative room, her phone lighting up with messages. Some were cruel, some were sweet, most were invasive. Are you dating the CEO? How did you seduce Julian Cross? What lipstick were you wearing during the kiss scene? She muted her notifications. Then, without knocking, Julian entered. His face was unreadable. Did they fire you? She asked. Not yet. But they want me to make a statement. About us? He nodded. Skye sank onto a paint-splattered couch. Say I manipulated you. Say I'm a distraction. Say we're nothing. No. Then they'll take the company from you. I don't care. You should care. She snapped. You built this. He sat beside her. Skye, you walked into my life like a hurricane. I didn't expect you. I didn't plan for you. But I'd rather lose everything than lie about what you mean to me. Her eyes welled up. God, you're infuriating. I know. Then she kissed him. Quick. Fierce. Real. Fine, she said. But if they burn you, I'm throwing water on your expensive haircut. The next day, Julian walked into the press conference like a man with nothing left to prove. Flashes. Cameras. Reporters screaming questions. He stood at the podium, took a breath, then said, yes, I kissed Skye Monroe. Gasps. She is my colleague. She is also the most brilliant creative mind I've ever worked with. Our relationship is personal, but my decisions are professional. If that's unacceptable to the board, they can replace me. A pause. Then, "I'll build something better." The fallout was instant. The stock dipped. Just a little. The media frenzy intensified. But something else happened too. Thousands of creators, artists, and startups rallied behind him. #SupportSkye trended globally. The mural Skye had painted in the executive hallway became a symbol of truth, of rebellion, of color in a grayscale world. She walked past it every morning now, chin higher than ever. Vivian, watching from her glass office, knew something had shifted. She'd lost, not the battle, the war. A week later, the board voted. They couldn't afford to lose Julian. He stayed. Skye stayed too. And the company, it flourished. Because for once, it didn't just lead in innovation. It led in integrity. One night, as autumn winds danced through Manhattan, Julian took Skye back to the rooftop. Same lights, same view, fewer secrets. He held her hand. "Still think I'm a corporate banana?" he asked. She smiled. "You're my corporate banana." They kissed again. No cameras, no scandals, just stars above them and chaos behind them. And ahead, something they hadn't dared say until now. Love. Real, messy, unapologetic. Just like them, Julian Cross thought surviving the board's ultimatum was the hard part. He was wrong. What followed wasn't peace. It was the quiet before a hurricane. Because in the world of billion-dollar brands and boardroom politics, one moment of honesty can ripple into disaster. And honesty had a price. Especially when the whole world was watching. Especially when someone wanted you to fall. The news that Julian had risked his position for Skye Monroe had sparked admiration, an attack. Weeks after the press conference, Cross Ventures was blindsided by a sudden move. Valencourt, a rival tech creative conglomerate led by ruthless billionaire Lucas Riven, had just bought out 18% of Cross Ventures stock through shell investments. Suddenly, Julian wasn't just battling media perception. He was facing a takeover. Lucas Riven wasn't just a competitor. He was a shark in a suit. Slick, charismatic, lethal, and worst of all, he was Skye's ex-client. The first meeting was a war without bullets. Boardroom, glass walls, 12 people pretending to sip coffee while calculating betrayals. Julian entered late. Lucas was already seated. "Julian," he smiled, rising with rehearsed charm, still chasing butterflies. Julian didn't flinch, still dressing like a Bond villain. Lucas grinned, "Only because the role fits." Skye sat across the room, silent, her stomach churned. She knew Lucas. He didn't make moves without motives. And now he was buying into the company she and Julian had bled to protect. Lucas turned to her. "Skye, how poetic that we meet again. Your work is still chaotic genius." She forced a nod. "Nice to see you from across a table and not a canvas." He laughed. "Your new boss must enjoy the mess." "I'm not his employee," she said flatly. "I'm his partner." Lucas looked at Julian. "That makes it even more tragic." Later, Julian slammed the door of his office. Skye followed him in. "This isn't coincidence," he said. "Lucas wants control. Of the board. Of you. Of everything. He's not subtle." She agreed. Julian paced. "The board's nervous. They're already whispering about stabilizing leadership. And you think they'll ask you to step down?" Julian stopped. "No. Worse. They'll ask me to step back. Temporarily." Skye stared. "What does that mean?" "It means they'll separate our roles. Remove me from direct collaboration with you. Say it's for optics." Skye's chest tightened. "So, we don't work together anymore. They'll still let you lead," he said softly, "but I'll be above, watching, not beside you." "No," she said, voice trembling, "I won't do that. They'll give you a choice." Julian said, "You keep the position, or you walk with me." She looked away. "I can't let them turn you into a scapegoat." He added, "You're not protecting me," she whispered. "You're pushing me away. I'm trying to save you. Then trust me enough to let me stand beside you." Silence. Two hearts. One divide. The next morning, a memo was posted. Effective immediately. Skye Monroe will lead the creative department as independent director. Julian Cross will transition to executive strategy chair. All joint campaign decisions suspended until further notice. Skye read it 3 times. Julian didn't come to the office that day. Neither did she. Across town, in a quiet art cafe, Lucas Riven found her. He slid into the booth without asking. "I heard about the restructure." She didn't answer. He ordered 2 coffees anyway. "You know," he said, "you deserve more than being a footnote in someone else's fall. Is that why you're here? To offer me a job?" He smirked. "Not a job, a platform, complete freedom. Valencourt will give you a division. Build your name, unfiltered, untethered. I'm already building something. With Julian," Lucas said. "He's bleeding influence. This company is dying. You know it." She didn't respond. He leaned in. "Come to me. Let me amplify you. All of you." Her jaw clenched. "You don't care about my art. You want revenge. And you care about Julian?" he asked. Skye stood. "Enough to not let you use me to hurt him." She left the cafe, heart racing, hands shaking, and a storm in her soul. That night, Julian sat alone on the rooftop of Crossed Destinies. The city was silent, the stars hidden behind clouds. Then footsteps. "Skye." He turned. She walked up, stopped in front of him. No words. Just breath. And something between love and war. "I told Lucas no," she said. He exhaled. "I'm glad. But I'm angry with you. I know. You pushed me away. I thought it would keep you safe." She stepped closer. "I'm not yours to protect. I'm yours to choose. Every day, even when it's hard." He nodded. "I do choose you, every time. Then fight. Beside me, not above me, not behind me, with me." He took her hands. "Always." They kissed. Not gentle, not soft, but desperate, honest, like they were stitching themselves back together. Downstairs, Lucas Riven sat in the lobby, watching the elevator numbers climb. A small smile played on his lips. He hadn't lost. Not yet. There were still cards to play. Still secrets to surface. Because if Julian Cross thought a kiss could save a kingdom, then he'd clearly forgotten how easily empires burned. Julian Cross didn't sleep the night after he kissed Skye on the rooftop. Not because of guilt, but because something didn't feel right. Lucas Riven wasn't the kind of man who retreated after a polite no. He was the kind of man who smiled during checkmate and whispered. It was already over 3 moves ago. And Julian could feel it. The checkmate was coming. It arrived at 8:37 a.m. An anonymous message in Julian's private inbox. Subject: Urgent, Contract 512G. From a friend still inside. He opened it. A single sentence. "They're setting her up." Attached was a confidential file. A licensing contract between Cross Ventures and a foreign digital art platform. The signatures were clear. Julian Cross, Lucas Riven, and Skye Monroe. But Skye never signed this. He knew that handwriting. He knew hers. The signature was forged. And the contract. It contained illegal clauses, ones that implied Skye had authorized the sale of internal creative data. If leaked, it would paint her as a corporate mole, a thief. The story would go viral in seconds. He stared at the file, rage boiling in his chest. Lucas was trying to destroy her. Meanwhile, Skye was painting in the company's concept room, alone, headphones in, music loud. She didn't notice the 3 people who walked past the glass wall, whispering. Didn't see the intern who took a picture of her and sent it to someone labeled LR Assistant Fire. Didn't hear her name trending again. Hashtag Skye the Spy. Hashtag Creative Traitor. Hashtag Cross Scandal. When she came downstairs, the office was different. Eyes followed her. People didn't smile. Even Brianna from marketing avoided eye contact. "What's going on?" Skye asked. Silence. Then someone showed her the article. Julian Cross's lover leaks IP, lawsuit incoming. It was filled with unnamed sources. Accusations. The forged contract. Skye's face paled. She ran. Julian found her on the rooftop again. She was sitting on the edge, arms wrapped around her knees, staring at the skyline like it was safer than turning around. He approached slowly. "You saw it?" he asked. "I didn't sign anything," she whispered. "I know." She looked up at him, eyes filled with something between heartbreak and fury. "Do you believe me?" "Always." She stood. "Then fix it. Because right now, everyone in your empire thinks I sold you out." "I will." "No," she said, stepping back. "You have to. Because if this doesn't get cleared, they'll arrest me. Lucas will win, and everything we've built, us, will be a goddamn footnote." That night, Julian called in every favor he had. Private investigators, cyber forensics, old college hackers who now worked for the Pentagon. By morning, he had what he needed. 10 a.m. sharp. Julian walked into the boardroom with a folder and fire in his eyes. The board was already buzzing. Vivian sat silently, eyes flicking between screens. Lucas was there too, casual, confident. He sipped espresso like he already knew the outcome. "Before we proceed," Julian said, "I'd like to present new evidence." He placed a flash drive on the table. A projector lit up the screen. Slide 1, the forged contract. Slide 2, side-by-side handwriting comparison. Slide 3, metadata proving the file originated from a device registered under Riven Global Holdings. Lucas stopped sipping, and finally, Julian said, voice steady, "Here's a recording of a phone call between one of Lucas's assistants and a Crossventure's junior editor, pressuring her to leak the story." He pressed play. The audio was damning. Lucas's smile cracked. The room fell silent. Then chaos. Voices raised. Chairs scraped. Someone cursed. Vivian sat still. Julian turned to the board. "If anyone in this room still believes Skye Monroe is the problem, speak now." No one spoke. Julian looked at Lucas. "You came for my company. You came for my name. But worst of all, you came for her." Lucas stood slowly. "This isn't over." Julian smiled. "Yes, it is." 3 hours later, Julian and Skye stood in the concept room. Her mural had been defaced earlier. Someone had painted over it. Ugly red strokes. The word, liar, scrawled across the middle. Julian handed her a brush. "I can clean it up," he said. She took the brush. No. She dipped it in gold. And painted over the red. Stroke by stroke. Covering hate with color. Fear with fire. "People will always throw mud," she whispered. Julian stood beside her. "Then let's turn it into mosaic." Outside the building, Lucas Riven entered a black car. Vivian was already inside. He poured her a drink. "Well," she said, "that backfired." Lucas laughed. "Not really." She raised an eyebrow. "I lost the board, but I exposed his weakness." Vivian tilted her glass. "Skye. She's the crack in his armor. The emotion in his logic. And what do we do with cracks?" Lucas smiled coldly. "We shatter them." Julian Cross had faced sabotage, betrayal, media storms, and boardroom mutinies. But nothing terrified him more than the thought of losing Skye Monroe. Not to Lucas, not to the world, but to her own doubt. Because after all the chaos, all the battles, she was finally pulling away. It started with silence. No texts, no calls, not even a sarcastic sticky note on his monitor. Skye had vanished into her work. She repainted the mural, buried herself in late-night sketches. She smiled in meetings, nodded at updates. But Julian knew her smile. It wasn't real, and he hated that he had caused it, even if his only crime was failing to shield her from everything. Meanwhile, Lucas Riven had gone quiet. Too quiet. Julian knew that kind of silence. It was the silence of someone waiting, sharpening a knife, preparing a final move. And then it came. At the Crossventures Global Summit, Julian arrived at the keynote stage expecting to announce their next product line. Instead, he found Vivian already standing at the podium, smiling, next to Lucas. The screen behind them displayed a logo. Valen X Chase, a new power in global creative tech. Julian froze. Vivian turned to him, mic in hand. "I'd like to announce our new initiative," she said, "a merger between Valencourt and Chase Creative Technologies." He blinked. "You don't have a company." "I do now," she said, eyes glinting. "Funded by Lucas, staffed by your former marketing team, and offering your clients double their current value." Gasps filled the room. Julian's assistant ran up, whispering, "3 major accounts just pulled out." Vivian smiled wider. "This is what happens when you build empires on romance." "Julian," Lucas added, "and emotion always loses to execution." Back at headquarters, Julian stormed into his office. Skye was already there, waiting. "I saw the live stream," she said. He nodded, fists clenched. "They want to break you," she whispered. "They won't." She looked at him, carefully. "They're coming for everything." "I know. And what if you can't stop them?" Julian stepped closer. "Then we build something new. From the ground up, together." Skye hesitated. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box, opened it. Inside, a ring. Simple. Gold. No diamonds. But carved on the inside. "Chaos meets clarity," she gasped. Julian's voice was quiet. "Skye Monroe, will you marry me?" Silence. The kind that feels like lightning in your lungs. Then, I don't know." His face broke. "Skye, I love you," she whispered, "but I'm terrified. What if we lose everything? What if I lose me?" He nodded slowly, closed the box. "Then I'll wait. No pressure, no deadline," she cried, and hugged him like she never wanted to let go. But didn't say yes. Not yet. The next day, Skye received an envelope. No name. Inside was a single page. A contract. A proposal. From Lucas Riven. "Your own company. Full ownership. Creative freedom. No restrictions. No Julian. Just you." Her breath caught. And below it, "Decision required in 72 hours." That night, she walked to the rooftop. Julian was there. Of course he was. She sat beside him, silent. He handed her a coffee. Her favorite. "Lucas made an offer," she said. "I know. I haven't said yes. I know that too." She looked at him. "What would you do if I left?" He didn't answer for a long time. Then, "I'd let you go, because you'd be choosing you. And I love you, not what you give me, not what you fix in me. Just Skye." Tears rolled down her face. She kissed him, soft, lingering. Then she stood. "I need to think." "Okay." And she walked away, with his heart in her hands. 3 days later, press conference. Lucas and Vivian seated at the center. A third seat, empty. Cameras flashed. Lucas adjusted his tie. "We're pleased to announce." The doors burst open. Skye Monroe walked in, wearing a blazer with paint stains. She walked to the podium. The room froze. Vivian smiled. "Ms. Monroe, here to join the future." Skye took the mic. "No." Gasps. She turned to the cameras. "I turned down the offer." Lucas blinked. Skye continued, "Because I don't want to build something out of spite. I want to build something out of love. Out of vision, out of truth." She turned to Julian, who had just entered, walked to him, took the ring from her pocket, slid it on her finger. "You asked if I'd marry you." He nodded. She smiled. "Now I'm saying yes." The room erupted. Vivian stood. Lucas's face cracked. "But Julian," he kissed her, in front of the world. No scandal, no shame, just love. And the beginning of something unstoppable. Julian Cross never imagined he'd say the words "I do" on a flower-draped balcony in Tuscany. But that's exactly where he was. 3 months after Skye Monroe said yes to his proposal, and no to Lucas Riven's empire, the world had shifted. Cross Ventures had stabilized. Their love had become legend. The press called them the Billionaire and the Brushstroke. Their wedding had its own hashtag. Julian and Skye Forever trended in 15 countries before she even walked down the aisle. But the couple didn't care about the headlines anymore. They just wanted peace, love, and maybe a honeymoon where no one tried to buy out their souls. The ceremony was held at sunset. Skye wore a dress covered in hand-painted florals. Julian wore a navy suit. No tie, per her request. They wrote their own vows. She said, "You were the structure in my storm. I was the chaos in your spreadsheets. And somehow, it worked. You didn't try to fix me. You just held my hand while I rebuilt myself." He replied, "I loved you when you called me a corporate banana. I love you now that you've made my heart your canvas. And I'll keep loving you." Glitter, meltdowns, and all. They kissed. People cried. Even Vivian, watching the livestream from a silent corner of New York, blinked too long. And Lucas Riven, he didn't watch, but he was planning something. Back in New York, Julian handed in his resignation. "I'm stepping down," he told the board. "I've built enough. Now I want to live." The board panicked. The market paused. But the move sparked praise. Julian Cross wasn't disappearing. He was evolving. Skye launched her own foundation, Chaos and Color, an art meets innovation space for underrepresented creators. Julian joined her as co-director. No titles, no hierarchy, just them, together. Then the email came, an encrypted message, no subject, no name, just one line. "Lucas is moving in the shadows. Watch your numbers. Watch your names." Attached, a list of fake vendor accounts draining money from the Chaos and Color Foundation. Hundreds of thousands gone. Someone inside was helping him. Skye stared at the screen, heart thudding. "He's trying to ruin us through the one thing we made pure," she whispered. Julian clenched his jaw. "He's weaponizing trust." They had two choices: go public, and risk donors pulling out. Stay silent, and risk losing everything they'd built. But then Skye said what Julian didn't dare. "Let's bait him." The plan was simple. They'd launch a fake grant, code-named Mirage, designed to be irresistible bait. Only insiders knew the back-end protocol. One mole would try to move funds. And when they did, they'd track it, all of it, and lead it straight to Lucas. It took 11 days. At 2:14 a.m., the system pinged. Unauthorized movement. Account traced. Server location, Riven Global. They had him. Julian called a press conference. But this time, Skye took the mic. Calm, commanding, lethal in lilac. She exposed everything. The theft, the setup, the betrayal. She didn't say Lucas's name. But she didn't have to. The world connected the dots. Donors doubled overnight. Lucas, he was subpoenaed. The SEC called. His board called. And then silence. For real this time. Because sometimes, the loudest revenge is a woman with a microphone, a smile, and the truth on her side. Weeks later, Skye stood in the doorway of their shared studio. Julian was barefoot, organizing art supplies by color. She smiled. "I'm scared." He looked up. "Of what?" "Being this happy." He walked to her, held her face. "Happiness isn't a trap," he whispered. "It's the reward." She nodded. "Let's go paint our forever," he said. And they did. Not with perfection, but with honesty. Not without scars, but with all the color they'd earned. Final scene. A small gallery in Florence displays a new piece. A massive canvas. Splashes of gold. Chaos. Precision. Title plaque. The Corporate Banana and the Girl with the Vibrator, by Skye Cross. Below that. Based on a true story. Visitors smile. Some laugh. One whispers, "This is what real love looks like." And it was. It still is. Julian and Skye. Forever. Julian Cross had finally stopped chasing the next billion. These days, he woke up to sunlight. Not stock tickers. Skye Monroe made coffee in paint-stained pajamas. Their loft smelled of citrus and turpentine. And the only deadline that mattered was when the toast popped. Peace was unfamiliar, but beautiful, until the envelope came. No stamp, no name, just an obsidian black envelope slid under the gallery door at 6:03 a.m. Skye found it first. She turned it over. Embossed in gold. Aurum Consortium. Inside, one card. Elegant. Clean. Julian Cross and Skye Monroe. You are invited to a private summit. Geneva. Midnight. 14th floor. No press. No aides. No distractions. Your presence is not requested. It is expected. Signed, Cassian Vale. Julian dropped his coffee, because that name wasn't just familiar. It was legendary. Cassian Vale, one of the richest men in history. Net worth, estimated over $300 billion. Seen in public, 3 times in the last decade. Rumored to have bought entire cities. To have funded revolutions. To have built tech governments feared. He was a myth wrapped in silk and strategy. And now he wanted them. 3 nights later, Julian and Skye stood on a rooftop in Geneva, greeted by silence, fog, and a woman in a velvet suit with no name. "You're late," she said. "We're early," Julian replied, glancing at his Rolex. She smiled. "Exactly." The elevator took them to the 14th floor. No signs, no cameras, just a door. Behind it, a circular room bathed in amber light. And at its center, Cassian Vale, older than photos, sharper than legends. He sat in a low chair. No guards, no gadgets, just presence. Julian extended a hand. Cassian didn't shake it. He pointed to 2 seats. "Sit. We have 5 minutes of small talk and 45 of legacy." Skye raised an eyebrow. "Do we get to ask why we're here?" Cassian nodded. "You're artists. And disruptors. I need both." Julian narrowed his eyes. "Need?" Cassian leaned forward. "The world is shifting, faster than even governments can grasp. Deepfakes, cultural disillusion, division. I'm building something to unify it before it collapses." He handed him a tablet. Project EOS Initiative. Mission: reimagine global storytelling using immersive art, AI simulation, and decentralized truth architecture. Skye blinked. "That's massive." "It's inevitable," Cassian said, "and I want you to lead the creative arm." Julian crossed his arms. "Why us?" Cassian smiled faintly. "Because you've turned vulnerability into value, chaos into culture, and because you survived fire without becoming ash." Then he stood. "Consider this an invitation to shape history. Or stay in your comfort loft. Your choice." And he left the room. Just like that. No pitch deck. No follow-up email. Just possibility. Back in New York, the loft didn't feel quite the same. Skye stared at the city lights. Julian leaned against the frame. "It's a trap. Or a beginning," she said. He walked to her. "We have peace. Why risk it?" She met his eyes. "Because maybe peace isn't enough. Maybe we were made for more." He looked away, then whispered, "What if we lose ourselves?" She took his hand. "Then we find each other again." The next morning, they made their decision. Not with fear, but with fire. They called Cassian's number. No one picked up. But when Julian checked his phone again, the wallpaper had changed. A countdown. 59 to 59. 59 to 58. And a message. "Welcome to EOS." At exactly midnight. The countdown on Julian's phone hit 0. The screen went dark. Then, one word appeared. "Look up." Julian and Skye stepped out onto their rooftop. The New York sky was cloudless. Still, silent. Then, a drone. Silent and fast. It descended from nowhere, hovering in front of them. It scanned their faces with a soft blue light. Then dropped a capsule no bigger than a lipstick. Inside, 2 metal rings and a note. "Welcome to EOS. Your passage begins now. Pack nothing. Bring only your truth." Within the hour, they were picked up in a black car with no license plates. The driver didn't speak. Julian tried to track their location. No signal. Skye held his hand the entire ride. "You scared?" "Yes." "Good." She smiled. "So am I." They arrived at a building with no name. Deep in the Swiss Alps. Security was silent. No guns. Just presence. Each door opened like it already knew them. Until they reached the center. A hall made entirely of mirrored glass. And in the middle of it, Cassian Vale. Again. This time wearing no suit. No shoes. Just linen. As if money meant nothing here. "Welcome," he said, to the edge of narrative. Julian raised an eyebrow. "This doesn't look like an initiative." "It isn't," Cassian replied. "It's an organism." Skye looked around. "Are there others?" Cassian smiled faintly. 17. Your numbers 18 and 19. Creators. Reformers. 1 ex-spy, 1 neuroscientist, 2 filmmakers who faked their own deaths. Why us? Julian asked. Cassian walked slowly. Because you're not trying to change the world through control, but through connection. He handed him a tablet. Their first mission. EOS Phase 1. Operation Codename, Swan Dive. Objective: hijack a global campaign from a media giant and replace it with an art-driven emotional truth response before it launches. Target: VALEN Networks, owned by Lucas Riven. Skye stared at the name. He's back. Julian clenched his jaw. We take him down from the inside. Cassian added. Not destroy him. Reframe him. Beat him with beauty, not blood. Skye nodded. That, we can do. They were led into a chamber labeled, The Silence. A minimalist lab. 1 table, 1 sphere. Inside it, a neural interface. Cassian explained, EOS isn't about weapons. It's about waves. You'll record emotional frequencies, blend sound, color, language, create a pulse that bypasses logic and speaks directly to human empathy. Julian blinked. You want us to hijack emotions? Cassian didn't flinch. No, I want you to remind the world what it forgot. Skye looked at Julian. We've always done that. Just louder, now. The next 5 days were the most intense of their lives. They slept 4 hours a night. Skye painted directly on VR walls, feeding visuals into the interface. Julian built pulse algorithms, his coding skills, long dormant, igniting again. Together, they created Project Halo. It wasn't an ad. It was a feeling. Compassion, encoded. Regret, harmonized. Truth, visualized. At the end of day 6, they stood before the core upload terminal. Cassian appeared behind them. 1 question, he said. Julian turned. If you press send, there's no going back. You'll expose Lucas's manipulation, but you also reveal yourselves, publicly. Everything, your past, your flaws, your love. Skye took Julian's hand, pressed the button. The transmission hit every VALEN Networks broadcast globally. Screens glitched. Then, silence. Then, Skye's voice. Not preaching, just telling her story. The suitcase, the glitter, the mural, the love. Julian's voice followed. About power, fear, loss, and choosing vulnerability. The final image, a boy holding a sparkler, standing in front of a broken billboard that now read, "Kindness is the only revolution that lasts." The internet didn't explode. It paused. Millions watched. Tens of thousands wept. Even Lucas Riven, watching from his penthouse, stood up. Jaw tight, eyes hollow. He didn't speak, just turned off the screen. For once, he had no counter. That night, back in the mirrored hall, Cassian handed them each a single gold token. Phase 1 complete, he said. What's Phase 2? Julian asked. Cassian smiled, and for the first time, looked tired. We dismantle history, he whispered. Skye raised an eyebrow. You mean rewrite it? No, Cassian said. We tell it right. Original YouTube storytelling script, Season 1 finale, romance, secrets, Taifu revelation, outro for Nhan stories. Cassian Vale was dying, not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. That was the secret behind the silence in his voice. The urgency behind the EOS initiative. The reason why he'd chosen people like Julian and Skye, not just to build a system, but to inherit it. It began with a message delivered in an old leather notebook. No tech, just ink. Inside, sketches, thoughts, regrets. The final page read, "The world doesn't need another trillionaire. It needs a storyteller who dares to feel. When I go, EOS belongs to you." Julian closed the book. Skye held his hand. They both understood what this meant. Cassian hadn't built EOS to lead it. He'd built it so someone else could carry it forward. Them. 2 weeks later, Julian and Skye were called to the chamber. All 21 EOS members were present. Seated in a circle like the world's most powerful campfire. Cassian entered last. He looked small, But his voice was still iron. I've built empires, bought presidents, predicted pandemics, but I never made someone cry in the best way possible, until I heard your story. Skye. She blinked back tears. He turned to Julian, and I've never seen a billionaire walk away from the throne, just to hold someone's hand. That's power. Then he coughed. Long, painful. He steadied himself. EOS is yours, he said, not to own, to protect. Silence. Then Cassian sat down and pressed a button. A screen lit up. Code, plans, keys. Julian and Skye were now custodians of a global consciousness engine. But it wasn't just data. It was art, emotion, truth. Cassian smiled for the last time. Make the world remember what it means to feel. Then he stood and walked away. They never saw him again. Weeks passed. Julian and Skye didn't return to New York. They stayed at EOS, not as operators, but as artists. They launched Project Horizon, a network of creative sanctuaries across the world where people could tell their stories without shame, fear, or filters. A poet in Jakarta, a war survivor in Kyiv, a child drawing her dreams in Mexico City. Every voice mattered, every story was heard, and in the center of it all, Julian Cross and Skye Monroe. No longer just a billionaire and an artist. Now, guardians of meaning. One night, they stood on a cliff in Portugal, overlooking the Atlantic. Julian whispered, "We're not building empires anymore." Skye smiled, "We're building echoes." Then she added, softly, "You know what Cassian left us?" Julian looked at her. She said, "The final piece wasn't data. It was permission." Permission for what? To rewrite the world, gently. They kissed, and the stars didn't explode. They listened. And that, dear listeners, was the end of Season 1 of Crossed Destinies. What would you do if you were offered a chance to change the world, but had to give up everything comfortable to do it? Let us know in the comments. If this story moved you, inspired you, or even just made you smile, leave a like to support the effort. Subscribe to Nhan Stories for more powerful, original tales. And don't forget to share this video with someone who believes in love, purpose, and second chances. Rate this story from 0 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps shape our next season. A new enemy may rise. A secret from Julian's past may resurface. And Skye, she may face the greatest challenge of all, motherhood. Stay curious, stay emotional, and above all, stay human. This is Nhan Stories, where chaos meets clarity. Until next time.